So the video is so we can start.
Okay.
Do you want to present yourself a bit?
Okay, yes. My name is Curtis Graham, aka the Lady Mahogany. A female impersonator, ex-female impersonator drag queen for almost 30 years. Basically in St-Maarten for about 26 years. Yes. So I was delighted that no.
Okay, you can say no actually.
I didn't know it's gonna work out better. Invited me to come and chat a little bit about Pride and Pride Month and what it means. And I was also saying to him just recently that wasn't sure if I was the perfect candidate to speak on Pride, for my life, because I was thinking that I'm not really an activist or doing anything special in terms in that regard. But the more I think about it, I think my life testimony is Pride itself, breaking down barriers in terms of being able to do what I did for so many years without thinking about the consequences and the stigma that it had, especially with your families and stuff who in those times frowned upon it. It was a big stigma to do something like this, So what does Pride mean for me and what does Pride mean for us in the Caribbean is something I had to kind of focus on a little bit before I came here. And I know what's behind Pride, visibility, freedom, the rights, a sort of revolution, protest to say that we are also human beings. We deserve the same treatment like anybody else, why should we be treated any differently, and stuff like that. To dig deeper, I was thinking that when we celebrate Pride and we have a Pride Month, what is actually the message we are actually really putting out to the world, to the universe, to the societies? And this is something where I think I have a little bit of concern about, because sometimes in my younger years I had a bit of a fear, even because my interpretation and lack of knowledge, I suppose, was that it was all about like everybody, the butterfly, the fairies, the leather and this and that. And I didn't think there was anything more to it. Until, as I got older, I realized that there were communities and foundations and organizations that are doing so much more things to make life a better place for gay people, or for I call it the Rainbow Nation family, because it's long now that, but yeah. So I realized that in those respects we need more visibility for that, what is going on in terms of making life better for gay people.
You said when you were getting older, can I ask you your age again? Or is it?
No, it's okay. I'm 53, soon to be 54.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, I know.
Dance. I don't feel it, but I'm glad that I look it.
And so, what drove you to get interested in that? Was there a moment or a series of things that drove you to dig deeper into the meaning of Pride and the history of it and
But I knew always knew a little bit of the history because over the years. But I think that what drives me is because I was like, okay, I gave my very good friend, what am I really going to get to say, I don't think I want to sound foolish, but
right.
I think I have to give some kind of thought.
Sure.
And I think that is the reason why. And I just think that I'm at a point in my life where now the way you think is different to the way you would think when you were 25 or when you were 30. So I believe at 53 I'm thinking maybe I suppose maybe as a 50-something young person, what does that really mean for me as an older person living a less, you know? So I suppose that is where that came from.
You also here for the film, right?
The Lady Mahogany.
Yes.
Yeah, the documentary itself, I had for over the many years a lot of material just sitting there in what you call in cyberspace, those hard drives. And I was at a point in my life where I kind of got rid of most of my costume and everything, and was like thinking, what do I do with all this material? So it was always in the back of my head to still do some administrative work with it, and maybe just do a small compilation and have it for myself or maybe a future.
Okay.
And later on, for the archiving. And later on, I spoke with a friend during the COVID time. I spoke with a friend in Trinidad, and he was saying to me, yeah, they don't archive anything. The gay people and people are just dying and nobody knows nothing. And this, I was like, okay, this conversation is sounding. And around COVID time, I'm listening more because there's nothing to do, you know. You like finish clean the house. You done clean the house 7 times already.
Learn how to make bread and stuff, everything.
Watch Games of Thrones how many times. And when I was like, okay, yeah. So it was like sparked my brain. And my God, I was like, but that's true, you know, Jeffrey. There's no archiving and stuff. People just die and they just forget you. And then we started to think, okay, well, that's a good idea. Maybe I could take my work and the material and maybe I could collaborate it with other people and see if we can do a production, something that a documentary, and put it there and have it for archiving material. And at the same time, it's funny how the universe works. Same time, a colleague of mine who we worked together in Matage, in Maho, he was one of the female impersonators that did Janet Jackson and Tina Turner.
Just name dropping like.
Yes, it's Larry Stevens, Stephanie Stevens. He sent me a documentary, and when he sent me the documentary, it took me a little while to look at it because you know how these documentaries go. And it took me like maybe 3 days. And when I did look at it, I was like, this is it. But the significance behind the documentary was that you had these Caribbean expats that migrated, that went to Canada, and they did a lot of drugs to get by, survive, that was their needs. And they spoke about their life, and all of that was documented in there. A lot of the time period was documented in that. And what happened is, after that documentation was produced, they died. Quite recently after. So what was left behind was this documentation, that the legacy of their work and what it was then was left behind in this documentary. So it's dawned on me that maybe, yes, we don't really pay much attention to that in our community about doing things like that, documenting work for younger generations to see. Because, okay, let's imagine the time frame for me. In my time, everybody knew who Lady Mahogany was. I would think if you would ask a 20-something-year-old who's coming out and going to the clubs and now becoming whatever, who that person is, they would know like, who's that? You know? So I think it was something that I wanted to focus on and start to do something about it. In the beginning, my friend was like, this sounds kind of scary.
Why scary?
Like more, it's strange. I must admit I got some strange feedback because they thought I was doing my
Surgery?
Yes.
Oh, really?
So I felt like they felt like I was doing something like that. And it was like for me I feel a big misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So my friend came to me one day and he was like, I said, what's going on? He said that your friend didn't want to probably do that, and I said, no, in all our conversation which I recorded, he wanted to do something like this. Why would you feel so? He said, feels a bit more video. I didn't know what exactly the word we used. And I would say like, why? You know? And I think just recently I spoke to a friend who's living in Paris. I was like, this is something somebody do when you die. And then I go like again, like my they go, here we go again. Because we did a lot of shows together and he is so phenomenal. Crystal. And I was like, Crystal, why don't you send me some information as to our life in St-Maarten and what we did, and you know, I have all the footage from you already that I can put something together in the documentary. And he never did. So that recently I was like, okay, why are you not doing it? And I was like, yeah, why we must do this? This is something you do when you die. You know? And I was like, okay, the mental, now I understand it. This is what it is. The people are misunderstanding what I'm trying to do. So they're thinking it like I'm doing, what you call
Obituary?
yes, but I'm like, why do you think that? Because people write books. People do biographies on their life and stuff like that. So why is this any different?
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know if people thought it was an egotistical thing or what. I was kind of getting mixed emotions about doing it, and I was like, okay, it started to kind of bother me a little bit. Just the last thing I wanted to do is people feel like it was my ego.
Right.
But you know, like, okay, she doesn't do anything anymore, and now she still wants to be in the limelight, and she wants to do this, and you know how I want to look at
It's part of the community.
yeah, you know how it can be. We don't like to expose certain things, but sometimes you have these strange, you know, going around, innuendos and like whatever going around. So this is the reason for that. And would you believe the guy who I was talking to in Trinidad, he passed away just recently. So now I'm left with a documentary to talk about his life and say something about him and whatever, you know, as a tribute into it as well. In the documentary.
I mean, like, it literally takes the whole meaning, like what you wanted to do is like, I mean, it's a great example of that.
Yes, but I think that message is being lost somewhere, and I feel like I have to still communicate that where I think it was. I think that's what people would get from it. And I still have to kind of put out there that this is what I'm trying to achieve, you know, through doing this documentary. And it didn't really start off as a documentary, which was really my mind with a pain in the ass. I didn't realize that doing the documentary is so much work and cost. So we did most of the work. I tried to do as much as I can do for myself in terms of interviews. I did it on my own. Some of the videoing and stuff we did, which was horrible. I even started before doing stuff without a tripod. So we in the beginning some shaking videos and stuff. And as we got later on, we started to say, okay, you know, I need to buy some stuff. And I started to buy things, and we did a fundraiser, GoFundMe, and we raised some money, and that is what we were able to use. And I could have matched the amount with my own money to pay a videographer and editor to put it together, which is still in progress after 1 year. So
It's 1 year of work.
It's complicated. And I realize it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I realize it's expensive. So he's doing it at a mercy and a help to myself. So it's taking much longer than I would anticipate. Yeah, but so what we lost over the years is that kind of visibility and that kind of freedom to be able to go out and feel safe, relaxed, and be able to feel free and be visible, you know? A lot of that is gone.
But like, since the website seems to be more economically powerful than the French side, I
Right.
think now maybe more people who live that side feel more free about expressing themselves in the queer way. Even if we still have...
I don't know, I can't say I haven't been doing the clubs for a long time, but what I must admit that things may have changed now that with technology and things are more out there. But what we had noticed too over the years, things were also regressing. As much as we kind of made forward and something, it started to go back. I don't know if people notice that, but
it's like
it started to regress a little bit. Yes. So at one point, it didn't. Sometimes we did not feel too safe on the website going out, where that was concerned. Even though they were having more clubs because they were shutting down on the French side. But what you really had was on the French side was that the mindset was different. People just didn't care. At 12 o'clock in the night, you could do what you want, Whereas on the Dutch side, I believe still you had to, local people didn't feel safe because they were like, who's going to see me? Or they still have to be like this, or they have to be like that. Whereas when you came to the French side, it was like, who cares? You had that kind of mentality, like, who cares?
Sounds like another world.
Yeah.
It sounds different now, right?
When did that change? And like, what changed? Why did it change?
The financial part,
Early 2000,
the economic part, it had a lot to play with that. When the businesses of Marigold started to shut down, that is where the change started, I believe. That is my opinion. Yeah.
Because like on the French side, I don't know any gay place. I heard about like one gay bar trying to blend here, but I don't know if it is fine.
Yeah, it was Eros, but before Eros, you had Tantra, the thing is, I wish I would have kept, because over the years, some of the names, I didn't keep up with the names. You had Tantra, you had David's Bar, you had upstairs was Lenedit, or was another name too as well, One Stop or something like that. And it was the one side was straight, the next side was totally gay. All the gays hung there. So you had that was 3 spots already.
were there like private and stuff like out there? And, like,
no, and that's the whole thing. That's what it was like. I was talking about. We were pride. We didn't have a flag. We didn't have a flag then. It was not about it was nothing about that really. And then they had Pink Mango. Pink Mango, I believe, was officially the first gay establishment that they had. That I think I remember. And we decorated Nokia. Little boy. And it was a neat little spot in the back there, and we would go and hang out and stuff. I have some photos still of that place. So yeah, it started there. But it was not in those times. There was not an organization, or it didn't have nobody thought about a flag, and some people just found place to live and to be able to be free.
To be together.
And to be together, to come together. And what you had for St-Maarten over the many years is the beach, like McCoy. Since I knew myself, that was always a spot for gays.
Still is.
So that was always there, that you can come. On a Sunday there was a tea party, people bring the drinks, the family days, we have a party whose birthday it is, and there was that. So that was always been there. So, and then everybody would have a house party. And that's why I also featured in the documentary Lady Mahogany. She was an icon in the beginning. She would do all the gay parties, these home parties and stuff for the gays, because there was nothing happening. And it used to be beautiful.
Lady Mahogany.
Lady Mahogany!
Tell us a little bit about who are some of the celebrities that you've made part of your repertoire.
Well, I've become known for Diana Ross. I started off with Diana Ross, and that hit it off, and I've been playing with Tina Turner.
For me, leadership in part is about tenacity, determination, inspiration. These are just a few to talk about a good friend of mine, Curtis Graham, to be the star that is Lady Mahogany. It was incredible. My recollection of that moment and then every moment thereafter was just so surreal to see our Curtis on stage with some of these high-profile female impersonators. So to see Curtis on that stage that night, my hair standing just telling me this, was just a wonderful thing. So forget about Lady Gaga. The Caribbean got introduced to Lady Mahogany.
You need the people that really can make things happen, who are not afraid to go on the ground and make it happen. And, because sometimes we can talk so well and we can do that, but at the bottom line, that doesn't translate in it really getting done. The people who really, and this is where, of course, it started from, the hardcore ground grassroots people are the ones who stand up and take the hit and take the blast and the negativity and stuff and don't have a hard back and say we don't care, we're gonna stand. Those are the people. And those are the people that don't get the kind of recognition.
Yes, and also we realize that more of the gay community prefer to maybe do something more festive, like parties, than maybe go on the boat.
Activist stuff.
Yes.
And
maybe same as you when we were working.
Right.
And we had a lot of discussions with, for example, people in SAFE about is pride nowadays still active because you maybe like you see it more like a party or whatever. So personally, I think it's still something related to activism because we're proud to see that we're happy. Like we still fight for right, but like
and you're right. That's what Milan said to me. I kind of always kind of overlooked that, but in some respect, those were also saying it also symbolized something.
Yes.
It also was being activist, and whatnot. Even though it was small behind doors or whatever, it was still. This is what I find so strange with St-Maarten, the two sides. The people from the Caribbean are coming here and say, oh, it's one of the most open place and the most open island and it's very this and it's very that, or whatever. Whereas you saw like Trinidad and Curacao, they're doing pride matches now, and some of them, the one in Curacao was huge the last 2 years. It was huge, and they really had like allies that came in and really supported it. The one in Trinidad and even Guyana, they had one too as well. And those places are the most difficult places, more difficult places to pull off something like that. And you have a place like St-Maarten where I think that we can really be the front runner because we have over the years walked the walk in terms of being more liberal and more open-minded and stuff. And yet still we are still so shy to come out and do it.
Yeah, but what's the thing missing here to get back to that, you think?
The mind, I think the mindset of some, mainly the local people. And I say that because when I was doing the documentary, part of it I wanted to tribute to the Kukukoi and that whole thing because it's a sort of thing that we identify. Everybody knows Kukukoi, when you think about it, and when I opened the dialogue to ask some of the guys, can you please, I would like to have an interview and talk about over the years what we did and this and that. All of them most of them, they were like, no, we didn't want to. The publicity. I always think when it comes to the publicity part of it, that is where it's shut down. And I feel
Because
that's.
they don't want it to be labeled as a queer place.
I believe that they don't want it to be seen. They don't want, and this is why I always say to that sometimes maybe that side was always that situation where it's difficult for them to come out in the open. Yeah, I always used kind of what's my pride. We kind of expressed the same thing around that time. So it was under the umbrella, kind of what we did was just like, for me, was like that we would dress up in drag. I dressed up for many years in drag, we did all of that. And you would not believe the amount of people that came out to actually just see that you have the gays or the stuff and the dress up or whatever. So I find it so difficult that why is it that they're so open to come, like for the carnival time, it's open and then when we want to do like a pride march or whatever, to say, hey, you know, this is what I want or whatever, why is it that's so difficult? You know?
Or what's your opinion on the condition of the gay community here? Politically speaking, in general?
That's a tough question because I really, for many years and still now, kind of stay away from the political conversations because it's so, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but it's kind of all the time. Because you don't want to step on anybody's foot or to say something wrong because you don't want to be victimized or they come to you in a different way, you know? So in that respect, I kind of shy away from the political arena. We are at 24 and we still have to tiptoe around these...
but it's tricky because you have to respect everyone's opinion, but then you want to speak out because this is wrong. So, you know, you mix between those two and you're like...
It's a challenge.
I have one last question. Do you believe that your film venture is activism?
Good question.
Activism? Now that you're older and wiser?
That is not really my intention, but if maybe it could, maybe something in there could
from what I've
be.
seen, it's just a message of love.
Right. And that's what I want to share, the story of it in the time frame, and the enabler was St-Maarten, and St-Maarten people was allowed this person to become this individual and was able to do something like this, you know. I love how to be part of the event, so, and I suppose a little bit of everything, yeah.
But it's funny because you said that you saw several drag queens when you were trying to say, I want to be like them.
Yes.
And I think that, I don't know if we're going to stuff and or something, but maybe if someone just see it, like one time of their life and say, oh, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, or just I'm not alone. It's normal.
Exactly. In that way, in that respect, that when it's out there, somebody may see it and say, you know, just as well I saw, I said that's what I wanted to do, you know. And maybe you never know. You have a local guy that's making a big name, but you don't hear anything about it, which is I Am Black Pepper. And he is huge in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, which is strange, and I'm like, why have we not heard anything? Why can't they do?
Especially here because
you know,
for me.
exactly, you know. So these are some of the questions. Although I think it's something personal with him, but I would think that we could do more in terms of just trying to do things. Getting him here could be big for the Pride event. You know, if you think about it. What I wanted to share too with this documentary was that when it comes to the LGBTQIA+, I hope I said it correctly.
You can say queer to once.
That's why I always say my Rainbow Nation. It helps me, make it easier for me. over the years, when our friends and family died who belonged to the community, what we found happening was that the family who are responsible to pass on whatever, I found and I observed that they never paid tribute to their identity. And it was heartbreaking, even as I'm going to say that I might cry, because some were close friends, and you had fathers and mothers that didn't want to even acknowledge certain parts, and I found it heartbreaking that that was part of who they were, and it never got heard. So this is what I think that part of the documentary also I want to share, that we need families to also honor that part of us when we leave, and not just talk about my little girl or my boy, you know, because that's another part, a greater part of them were also to what they did within their lifetime and stuff like that. And dressing in like female impersonation is not just dressing in woman garment, you know. We would like you to see that there's something more behind it. It's a culture, an art form that an expression to a stuff, you know. And while you may think it might be a sort of illusion, it's the friendship and the bond that were created around that is what is so meaningful, and that is what gets lost.
You keep saying female impersonator. Do you prefer that term to drag queen, or?
No, you know what? Female impersonator goes under the whole thing as drag. Because you have drag,
Right.
and the whole spectrum of drag is all different. So, but what we have happening is that when you see drag, I always remember a lot of times that you have female impersonators that don't want to identify as a drag queen. And they still want to sell, so especially like you said, we call them the fishy ones. You know, don't dare you call me drag, because drag in their eyes is the more outrageous political part, you know, the outrageous and stuff with the makeup, more campy. So I'm still yet careful to say drag and still say female impersonation, because I think when the female impersonation part is I would more identify for the trans.
Like, what's there any drag king? Like,
And there's you know, not much, but you do. There was like some ladies that they would dress up as guys and stuff like that. And you see those things like in Halloween, or Halloween time. And Halloween was also a part time that you would use to be able to express yourself in terms of identifying with gay and pride culture and all of that. They were always able to hide under the umbrella of Halloween. So when you hear stories of a lot of young coming out, they start by telling you, that was dress up for Halloween and we did for Halloween because it was past. So the kind of same thing for the carnival thing. Yes.
that's why it's listed place where people sell.
Exactly. I'm trying so hard to finish the documentary, and one of the major challenges is the financial part. If anything you can establish where we can get some kind of funding and help in terms of trying to finish the documentary, I will be so happy to do that. Yeah, because that is one of the major setbacks right now. It wasn't that I cannot finance it personally, it's just that with all what had happened over the years, it's difficult to pull that kind of money out from the pocket, because you don't know what to expect to get certainly. You never know what will happen later on, you know. So we are really trying to see how we can. I am actually, when I say we, but it's really a kind of see how we can get it done within the means of whatever it is I have, you know.